All right. Okay. So Eileen, Yvette, Dana, if you have your video, turn it on. I don't like seeing names. I like having a party. I like the more people, the more exciting it is.
Like video. Oh, okay.
Oh, look at Dina.
Oh, there I am. Look at my background.
Oh, Dana, how do you?
I have to
Fun.
I didn't know they had actual moving ones.
Yeah, for work, because, yeah. But my lighting's not good right here. Sorry.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've never seen that one.
It's one of the standard ones on the templates.
Ah.
Yeah.
I don't use a template because it's like when I do it, I have like a hole in my face or something. It's very strange.
Mine too.
Doesn't work well with. All right, so I'm recording. All right, so everything we're recording. Thank you all for joining me in the discussion. For those that attended last week's discussion, I hope that you enjoyed it. We talked about a number of things. We talked about a number of things that needed to be discussed. And as it pertains to the and as I said last week, I am all about engagement. This is not a lecture. You can read the content and you can learn. This is having the discussions on how this content is applicable to the roles within your organizations. We're going to talk about scenarios that arise within your organizations. We talk about, so I use last term, for example. You know, we talk about what we learned about last week. How does this apply to your organization? You know, and those discussions turn into hour and a half, hour 45-minute conversations. Lisa, how long did we talk last week?
I think twice double that, and it was a long time.
3 hours.
Yeah.
I kept count. 3 hours.
Well, it didn't seem like they went by quickly.
Yeah, but I'm saying
there's a lot to say.
It is more. It's not with me. It is not about the content. It's about how you can apply it, because you're a graduate student. You can read and comprehend the content. You know, I'm here to reflect on my experiences and to provide additional insight on how this is applicable to your roles. Okay. So you see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So as we went through the introduction to supply chain and operations management, what did you all learn from the content? What do you need? What do you want additional clarification on?
From last week?
Yes, for last week. So the introduction to supply chain, you know, and once you read the content, once you read the articles, once you talk about the emerging technologies, what did you learn? What do you still have questions on? How do you see what you learn, and how can you apply it to your roles within your organization?
Well, I learned that it's much more structured than I thought it was. I thought it was just a trial and error approach. And it's like a fast track to realizing that there are defined methods to approaches, and basically everything's been considered.
That's a great point, in that when we talk about project management, you do have two different flavors, right? So who's heard of Agile? What is it?
What, Agile?
Yes.
Short-term reactions to changes in the market.
Okay. What's your definition, Kevin?
It's iterative. So you're continuously delivering, you're continuously delivering value to the client or to your organization on an iterative basis.
Right. Right. And so I smile because Lisa, you say that, you thought it was a free for all, where people think agile is a free for all when it's not, but it is, it's structured iterations, I could call it, right? Where waterfall is that structured methodical approach, right? So, and I had this discussion yesterday where there's no one size fits all. And organizations, all organizations can't use waterfall, all organizations can't use agile. It depends on the culture, it depends on the environment, it depends on the projects, it depends on the resources. And I'm going to give you a little hint. If an organization says they're agile, I have yet to see a company that is 100% agile. You're going to see a hybrid between agile approaches and waterfall approaches within the industry. We're making strides. We're making the correct steps into the agile approach, but you need to understand the foundations of both, because you will not. Because my wife works for work. She's a contractor for the IRS, and government says they're agile. Not even close. Not even remotely close. And it's a hybrid approach. So Andy, you both were smiling and shaking your head.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head because to respond quickly to even the slightest issue or problem that I have encountered in my role as a project manager or as a senior planner, it's not the simplest answer is the most hardest to execute.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. So Dina, what's your thoughts?
So I'm currently in kind of a situation of what you're talking about. I work on a regional level with job developers of what I do. So I'm grant funded, my position. So we're a region that has to write our own proposals and then try and show performance and those. And then I have my local job duties. So trying to, and no one does the same thing, but they're all trying to make us have the same goals and justify, our pay and all of that. So to me, I'm very structured and process oriented. And the way that everybody just does things is just so random because to me, I can't think like that. And it's hard, but that's what you get with an organization. You're trying to get to one goal and there's all these departments just to get a CRM system that I need that would solve all of these issues that region is having. It's like, you can't. It's so hard. They do not pivot and they're not agile. It's like they wait until the ball to drop and then they're like, oh yeah.
I laugh because that's what I did my whole career. I implemented ERP systems,
Yeah.
and it's like you said, it's so simple, right? And a CRM application, it's like 5 steps, and it's impossible to implement, right?
Yep.
And I made this statement because I teach a project management course, and I made this statement where I say we're reading a book that is approved by the PMBOK. I said that what all the stuff you're going to read in this book across this entire course, only 30% is real world. I said because people are these processes have been proven time and time again, right? But the complexity is the people.
Yes, the personalities is worse than the simplicity of the system and getting it going, and the personalities and the mindsets and the generations, especially in higher education, is a huge challenge because you have, people that have been in higher ed for 20 years. They don't ever leave. Then there's the newer newcomers that come, like I come from for-profit going to not-for-profit.
Right.
So we're like numbers based, and that's my background is sales, retail, management, operations, all that. Then I got to higher education. So for-profit worked well. I did really well because I had that background. But now going not-for-profit, it blows my mind how the generations you could see, the personalities, and then they get comfortable, and that's more of a battle than the actual system itself.
And I completely agree with you because I'm only a year into higher education full time. I was in consulting. I was in management consulting. So I had to have that type of personality. I had to have that approach, right? Where I had to get things done, right? And I just had to call a day with I was working with the institution on continue at Penn State. So I teach at Penn State full time. And I was working with the institution on continuing education, and I was sending them, some marketing material, for podcasts and for announcements for the keynote I'm doing. I said, people want this real stuff. They don't care about brochures. They want people to say, they want to demonstrate this knowledge and say, I'm getting this knowledge from this guy that's doing this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, Justin, we don't do this around here. I say, well, I'm coming in hot. I said, I'm different.
Yep.
I said, first off, that's why you're calling me, because your program's floundering. And I said, I'm giving content that people want. I said, these people are reaching out to me for podcasts. These people are reaching out to me for keynotes. So apparently I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I'm not being conceited. I'm giving you the facts. I said, if you want people to enroll in your certificate programs, I said, first off, you have a program at the top supply chain institution in the world. I said, you don't have to have people. I said, the people don't have to listen to me. I said, all they have to do is Google it. I said, don't listen to me. I said, just Google it. I said, you need to market that. You need to leverage that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I said, I am not for everyone. I am not everyone's cup of tea. I said, but I stand behind every single one of my students. If my students say that they want to get in a particular industry, I'll make it happen. People say that, I'm too candid. People say I'm too direct. People say that I'm maybe too abrasive. I might be. but every single student that reaches out to me, I do everything in my power to make them successful, because that's why I got into higher education. Right? So, that same exact thing holds true for you. And that's why I try to, have these conversations in terms of, how does this content apply to you? So Kevin, you're in ERP, right? Or you're in technology?
I am in technology, yep.
What company, or can you say?
I don't mind saying. I work for a company out of Seattle called Slalom Consulting. And my focus is with the technology enablement group. So we do a lot of cloud infrastructure initiatives, application development, implementation, things like that. So right now I'm doing a Salesforce implementation for the Department of Public Health here in California.
Oh, so you know exactly what I'm talking about in terms of project management, and it's in Kevin's scenario, Kevin's foundation is probably, operations management, supply chain management. It's the theory. He has to understand the theory. But where these implementations fail is exactly what we talk about. It's the organizational change. These systems don't fail because of technology. Salesforce has been implemented across thousands of organizations. SAP has been implemented across thousands of organizations. It's the acceptance, it's the people. And where I see things fail is that leadership thinks that these technology solutions are IT projects. And once they implement this change, they just force it in without telling people the reasoning. They don't explain the why. And if you don't explain the why, you don't get buy-in. And that's where I see a lot of things struggle. You know, especially so I come from manufacturing, and I come from unions. And I come from walking in the manufacturing facility where the unions are busting out desktops and looking at me and saying, what are you going to do? But the missing piece, the underlying problem is that the leaders did not show them the why. So in that one manufacturer I'm talking about, they busted out desktops around the warehouse, but they just threw up those desktops without. I mean, these employees are sitting there like Dina said. You know, these people are sitting in a warehouse for 15 years making minimum wage. You know, and they see computers go up. Oh, they're going to try to take over my job, right? But whenever I just simply walk in there and I say, how long does it take you to go report? Because they're on piece rate, so they get paid based on how many pieces of products they're stamping out, right? So I say, how long does it take you to report your piece rate? How long does it take you to walk across the warehouse to get that steel coil every day? Oh, it takes me about 30 minutes to walk across the warehouse to report my piece rate. Takes me about 30 minutes to go get my steel coil, because I have to go get a forklift and bring it over. Okay, that's an hour worth of work, essentially. You're not getting paid for. If I put this desktop right beside you, you take three keystrokes, done. How much are you going to make in an hour every single day? That's $250 in your pocket every week. Done. Just simply explaining the why. I mean, that may be oversimplified, but it was just that simple. It was just that simple. If I could explain to you how I'm gonna put extra money in your pocket every single week, $250 in your week, it's easy, it's simple. You know, and you know, and to Kevin's point, you know, customer service reps, they're kind of used to it, right? But you have to, and this is, I'm hitting on this issue, I'm drilling this issue because this is within any initiative within an organization. It's just not technology. It's with any single organizational change initiative. And supply chain management, operations management, it's nothing but projects. It's nothing but projects. Think about it. Who disagrees with that? Right? It's continuous improvement projects. So Salesforce may be in a system, may be in my organization for 5 years, but I still have to upgrade. That's a project. Right? That's training. That's explaining the why I need to upgrade Salesforce. We have Salesforce. Why do we have to go through 2 weeks of training for a new version? How's that going to change? Well, now I have to tell you how this new version is going to positively impact you. How's it going to make your job easier? Right? So, and again, it's with any initiative within a project or within supply chain management, operations management. Anything else that you learned from the first week before we get in the second week?
I mean, I just wanted to share a little bit. So,
Please share.
Hi, it's Frances. When I was looking at the lessons from last week, and we are currently working on, well, it's more improvement process, like what we discussed last week. It's more so I work under case management. So we basically work with the insurance in hospital. So we're making sure that all our patients are eligible or are, rightfully staying in the hospital. Okay. So we used to, way back so many years ago, we used to do paper. So we call the insurance and they'll be like, okay, send us clinicals and whatnot. A couple of years ago, we started using Midas. So it's a system that basically have nurses and then double checked by physicians if all the clinicals basically tell the insurance that this patients are eligible, right? I wanted to just share that just this week. So we have, physicians that are nearing their retirement age. Until now, after how many years, still like, no, but this is not how it's done. And I'm like, no, this has been our process for so many years. And, they are really like set in their ways compared to those that are, like younger, that are very open to change. And they are even the ones that are bringing feedback or sharing their thoughts to like management and administration, saying, hey, this is what needs to be changed, so that the rest could tag along or jump in the the wagon. So I think that when I was reading the lessons from last week, I was like, oh my God, this is the process improvement that was
this is my company. Yeah, but I mean, thanks for sharing that, because I mean that's essentially my goal, right? And if you aren't learning anything from any of this content, it needs to be ripped out. And that's kind of what I asked the people in the last class, where if you see a learning objective where you don't see value, it's coming out. And so because Susan there, they continue. So Susan and Dr. Nick, they asked me week after week, okay, what needs to be changed? What needs to be changed? What needs to be changed? I said, this class is pretty solid. And again, but that's my opinion, right? My opinion holds less weight than what yours is. So, if you find something that is, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I didn't create this class. So it's not going to hurt my feelings, if you don't find value in any of this content. So, because that's the goal.
I think it's valuable.
Excuse me?
I think it's valuable, and it's nice to hear Francis's story, because I think Dina and I must work at the same place, because I'm also in an organization that's so reluctant to change, especially at the top. And it seems that supply chain management and project, it's so fragile, because if you don't have 100% participation, it fails. So I think back a lot to our leadership class, and I'm sure, and I know your doctorate's in leadership, so it just seems to kind of go hand in hand, and it's hard. I know my organization, the person promoting the technology they were often the tech companies, and so nobody believed them. We thought it was that they were just trying to earn money. So it was hard when we have had change, it's just been impossible. But
to that point, how do you influence change from the bottom up? So how do you influence change to the people within your organization that are resistant to change? That's supposed to be the ones that are influencing the change. How do you do that?
Well, it's hard if they never implement the change, because they're in charge of making decisions, and so it's just sort of the status quo prevails, and it's frustrating. So it's nice to read about all of this and then hear like Francis' comments and Dina's comment, about.
It's not nice for me because nothing gets done. It's all lip service. I mean, am I wrong?
What, that it's not nice? What, that
it's all lip service. So the leaders of your organization went to business school. They're learning the leadership theories just like you are, right? One of the primary leadership theories is servant leadership. So people talk about servant leadership within leaders. How many servant leaders do you know? Do you have raise your hand if you have a servant leader in your organization? Okay.
Oh, that'd be, yeah, well.
Can I look away?
I know.
But all right, answer me this question. That didn't go over his plan. Answer me this question. How many servant leaders are transformational leaders that say they are, but aren't. Where it's just they're just talking.
A lot.
Right? Now you may have servant leaders, but they're not publicizing that they're servant leaders.
Right.
They're demonstrating it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to publicize it because they say my actions speak for my servant leadership.
Yep.
Right? And those people that say they're servant, oh, I practice servant leadership. No, that's hogwash. If you have to publicize it, you're not doing it.
Right.
True.
Right? But that's how I influence people whenever I'm consulting. They hire me to come in there and tell them that. Where it's obvious. It's obvious. It's the same thing. It's the same thing for diversity and inclusion. Like we talked about last week. Why you bring me in here saying you want a diversity program when there's nothing but Caucasians in this room? It's kind of obvious. Or there's nothing but 50-year-old Caucasian males in this room. It's kind of obvious. I'm gonna take your money. I'll be out.
The lip service thing again. Yeah.
But it's so obvious, but nobody does it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that, to me, that's the problem. That's part of the reason why I left industry, because I preach this stuff. People paid me $200 an hour to come talk about this, but they didn't do anything about it. Right? And I share this story where there was a startup company in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Two Wharton grads, 2 Wharton MBAs, top MBA program in the world, right? And they're just sputtering out all these theories you can get out of a book, right? And I'm telling them, I say, dude, that's a perfect scenario. I said, what if this happens? No answer. What if this happens? No answer. And we were at dinner one night. I said, I can sit at home and take your money if you're not going to implement anything that you hired me to come out here and tell you and work with you on, or we can work together and we can develop a plan to implement this stuff. You know, but again, my approach may be different than what your approach is, right? You may be a little more subtle in communicating, but it's having the same goal. You know, so I think that I guess the long and the short of it is that there's a lot of talk, no action going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk and no action in terms of leadership. There's a lot of talk and no action in terms of diversity and inclusion. You know, and like I said, that's why I am pushing the gas in terms of getting more minorities within supply chain management and getting more women within supply chain management. And again, like I said, just look at my work. You know, I say look at the TED Talk, look at the TED, go on PSU TED. I'll just show you.
Well, you're also doing that talk on this 22nd, and that has a lot of women
in supply chain,
mm-hmm.
right? We're promoting this stuff. We don't talk about it. We do it. You know, and I think that that's the only way that change is going to happen. Again, these are my thoughts. CSUMB does not. These are my thoughts. These are my opinions. But this is not from research. This is what I speak with leaders of organizations about, right? And I'm doing a keynote for women in supply chain. I'm organizing this TED event, right? And look, it's all about women, about empowerment. And we got the student body president from Yale coming. We have the CEO of the Nigerian government who heads up supply chain. where we're going to record her TED talk from Africa
Wow.
and publish it in an event. Nobody does this stuff. But that's what I explain to my students is, you kind of have to have that differentiator, especially undergrads, and I think that in the world that we're living in today, like I said, you have to demonstrate what your objectives are, what your missions are. And like I said, we can talk about this all day. But I say I'm creating events. I'm creating events to demonstrate what I stand behind. And without that, my thought process is, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Right? And that's just one example. And this needs to be transferred into the industry.
Mhm.
It's just not supply chain. This is talking about the sea level of slalom, right? What's that gonna look like? How are we gonna get women in the C-suite as well at a tech company, right?
I'm actually kind of proud of a lot of the efforts that my company has done, but it is unfortunate that it's taken things that are happening in the world right now to actually take action on it. And it is hard to know if that is a reaction to current events for public image, or if they truly believe it. I do think that we are better than a lot of other companies and actually do walk the walk a bit, but that's just my 2 cents. I left my previous employer for a lot of these cultural reasons, and yeah, I don't know. It is important to me.
And I really appreciate that. I respect that, because that's my thoughts as well. Is that why now? Why are we seeing these chief diversity officers pop up pretty much overnight? To me, that's hogwash. You're gonna put a brown face in a position, and then it really almost pisses me off. Because why does it take something like this, someone to lose his life, to create a role like this? Once you create this role, what is that person going to do? How are you going to make that person accountable? Just because you put a Black person or a Spanish person in that role, that don't mean they're going to advance diversity.
Yeah, you said that last week, that they may just.
That does not guarantee a thing.
No.
I know a bunch of Black people that would not do a single thing for another Black person. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So what you need to hold that individual accountable for that role. To say 6 months from now, what are you doing? What have you done to advance diversity within that role? And like I said, diversity is not just race. It's not just gender, right? It's more than that. But he or she have to validate or demonstrate what they've done in that particular role. If they can't, on to the next one. Let somebody else give it a shot. How often do vice presidents and CEOs get replaced when they don't produce? All the time. So these chief diversity officers, they don't produce, give somebody else a shot. See what they can do. But it's not going to happen. They're just filling that role. And they say,
but if the organization doesn't really want to change and they just create that position to appease the public, then they have no incentive to
lip service,
monitor it or measure productivity.
Right? It's that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So again, I'll talk about this all day, so I'll shut up.
It's also leading by example, I think.
Yeah.
Most of the, yeah, like if you don't see it from up there, then how do you expect the people, below to follow you and act in a certain way?
Yeah.
I feel.
That's why I'm trying to catch as many undergrads as I possibly can. I'm not going to touch everybody, but I can get as many as I could possibly can. Everybody that comes through my class is going to have that diversity and inclusion aspect to the class and blend it in, right? And I wish somebody from administration would say something, because you're gonna catch some fire. But think about it. Think about it. If you try to say something from an institutional perspective on telling the truth, you have a problem, right? And like I tell people time and time again, that's we're talking what Lisa and I talked about, and Francis talked about last week. If you're uneasy about what we're talking about, I'll probably say it every single week from now on. If you're uneasy about talking about it, you're part of the problem, right? Because I'm drilling this thing right now. Because when I'm letting off of it, nothing's happened. let somebody else take a try. I'm taking a try right now to see what happens. So all right, what were you saying?
It's a large undertaking, though. It's kind of.
You can't change the world, but
I know, but it's still important to try.
Yeah, within your circle, you have your own circle of influence.
But you have your circle of influence. But I think that if you get the right people on board, you can shake things up. So, for example, if anybody has heard of the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI is pretty much sustainability reporting and extreme bottom line and things like that. So, one discussion that I had on that podcast that's going to be released next week is, if we can come together and we can reach out to the people on GRI and we can create a standard, because GRI is a global standard. Everyone uses that template. If we can add diversity and inclusion mandates, templates, right, that everyone has to abide by, that's a step in the right direction, right? But my thing is, okay, who do we need to talk to?
Yeah.
Right? That's where, if I can find that person who to talk to, I can gather up the troops.
Well, it would probably end up being through legislation.
No, so the GRI is completely away from legislation. It is kind of it's a independent governing body.
No, I know it's independent, but I just think the catalyst for having them adopt a standard that must be adhered to will come from somewhere else, because they don't really have anything that they need. I mean, they create their own kind of definitions, or like you said, their own standards.
But it's a consortium. So multiple countries, multiple organizations come together and say, what does sustainability look like from a global level?
But if one country sets a bar that's high and respected, it seems that others will follow suit, hopefully.
They will follow suit. So, for example, there's mandatory corporate social responsibility in Indonesia, for example. And so if you operate in Indonesia, you have to follow these sustainable practices. If your organization doesn't, your leadership goes to jail. End of story. Right? But will the U.S. do that? Absolutely not.
Mhm.
Right?
But they look, then don't they look horrible on the GI?
U.S. looks horrible on GRI anyway. But anyway,
Shocker.
but the Global Reporting Initiative. So those mandatory companies do that GRI reporting, but the GRI reporting is completely optional. But
Yeah, I think Amazon didn't do it for a while.
yeah, but I think that but the way that where it's evolving is that because millennials and because Gen Zs are increasing their buying power, because they're going to be fueling the economy in the coming years, their buying decisions will be forcing a lot of these companies to report their sustainable practices. Because millennials and Gen Zs, that's very important to them. And there's a lot of studies out there that says that those millennials and Gen Zs are 95, 96 more willing to flip a brand to a company that has sustainable practices. You know, so for example, I'll say that, okay, Apple and Samsung, right? I'm not gonna do it, but Apple and Samsung, right? If Apple gets popped again with Foxconn, and then Foxconn's caught with unsustainable practices like they have before. But Samsung is squeaky clean. They're saying millennials will transfer to Samsung from Apple. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Just because Samsung has those sustainable practices versus Apple. That's probably the extreme example, but you get it. So, okay, Adidas and Puma. That would be. So if Puma, because Adidas is big on sustainability. Puma may be, but Adidas publicizes it more. You know, so if Puma gets popped for child labor, those Puma consumers are going to Adidas. They're not looking back. You know, and that's those Gen Z, those millennial consumers. You know, and that's what's going to force a lot of these companies to report their sustainable practices. And technology companies, it's big for technology companies as well, especially the people aspect. So there's a big push to get females in leadership roles within technology companies. Because I think that some people may argue, but I think that you have the minorities in technology companies, but you don't really have the females in technology companies. So there's a push for that. Kevin, would you agree, disagree?
I would agree. There's definitely, and it depends what positions you're talking about and what kind of, like, I work for a technology consulting company, which is a bit different because we have like a management aspect of it, which quite a lot of females actually work kind of in that piece of technology, but the actual, you know, developers and solution architects and things like that are vast majority males for sure.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of females in the professional services, a lot in leadership roles?
Yeah, we're actually like 40% female, I think, right now. In leadership roles, no. We have apart from our chief diversity and inclusion officer that was just appointed about a month ago. But
there you go.
But yeah, all of our leadership is definitely male at this point.
What's the ethnicity of that chief diversity officer? Is it female?
Oh, they're all white. Well, 75% of them are white. Yeah, Caucasian.
No, but it's the chief diversity officer.
Oh, sorry. She's actually Asian Pacific Islander.
Okay.
I think.
I'll take that.
Yeah. She's not white.
But the thing is, I've seen that. So what's your thoughts on that? If you have a 55-year-old Caucasian chief diversity officer, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I don't think it necessarily makes sense, but
there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But
No, I mean, no, I'm just trying to think about it. I'm not, I mean, like, I mean, the whole purpose of diversity and inclusion is one, becoming more diverse, but also hiring qualified people to do the job, right? Not based on other things. And if there's a white person that is bringing more diversity and inclusion into the executive level of a company, then I would say there's nothing wrong with that. You could argue that, but like you mentioned, companies aren't going to do that because it's an image thing. I mean, at least that's my personal opinion about it. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate that, because I forgot what it was. A big company too, where they have a conventional male in leadership and diversity officer. Like Kevin said, there's nothing wrong with it, but my thing is, he was probably already in a leadership role in the organization. Why didn't he push that whenever he was in his previous role? Makes no sense. Makes no sense. You know, so.
Well, it also, it is hard to know. I mean, somebody may bring a lot of diversity of a 55-year-old white male, but if the whole organization is 55-year-old white men, and including their chief diversity and inclusion officer, but perhaps we can envision an organization that's very diverse, with diversity at the top everywhere, and then a white 55-year-old diversity and inclusion officer might not stand out as much, you know.
But so here's my thought process, is that innovation, the future is technology. The future is innovation. The future is technology. I do not, and I spent my career in technology. I do not see that many innovative ideas coming from that demographic. So if you're going to advance in your career, as an organization, if you're going to continue to create a competitive advantage, you need that diverse thinking, that diverse mindset. You know, and again, it comes from male, comes from female, comes from millennials, comes from Gen Zs, it comes from baby boomers. But if you have that mix, that's what's going to harness that creativity. That's what's going to harness that innovation. Whenever you have those like-minded individuals, that's a detriment to the company. I mean, you can say that I'm biased, but I've seen it. You know, I did the same thing that Kevin did. You know, I've worked with these leaders of these organizations. You know, but I would say that the reason why we're in those organizations was because of their innovative thinking. But I would also say that they also think that technology was a magic bullet and was going to solve the world. You know, so if you have that innovative thinking, if you have that diverse leadership, you're going to have that person to say, hey, organization, we have to get our house in order before we implement this technology. We have organizational change initiatives to put in place before we implement this technology, right? Whereas if you have, you know, those like-minded individuals who have been in that role for years and years and years, you miss that. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah, a homogenous environment doesn't work.
Yeah, that's where that is very important. Like I said, I'm not being biased. I'm just pointing out where we are. I'm pointing out what I'm discussing with organizations, you know, in a current state. Again, I don't teach theory. I teach what I talk about with people. You know, so we got 10 minutes to talk about the second week. Anything else you want to share? Eileen, do you want to say something?
Sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I've had computer issues all day. I guess what you guys have been saying is relevant to my company too. And one question I have is I'm definitely entry level still, I think. I've only been with the company 4 years, but how would you influence these changes from the bottom up? And I do like occupational health and safety. So I'm kind of like a consultant to different lines of businesses. And going there, you see different personalities between leadership and I guess the issues you're talking about with like implementing different systems. I see it with implementing different Cal OSHA regulations and seeing how we can implement different things to make stuff safer for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess talking about this, I don't know. I mean, I have to influence the leaders to spend millions of dollars on things to make safer. And you just see their eyes like, well, are you paying for this? I'm like, no, safety has no money. Your line of business has to pay for it.
But you have to justify the cost savings. So you have to justify how much is it going to cost if you don't implement it.
Right. And I think talking about back to leadership is our company is so old school and it's been done this way for 50 years. This is the way we're going to do it. So I think it's hard for younger generations to come in and say, I think this idea is going to work better. It might save you this much money, but no one wants to hear it.
You have to, the way, like I said, my approach is different, so I'm not going to give you my approach. So the way that you have to do it is, again, you have to demonstrate the benefit to the organization. Again, you have to somehow demonstrate the cost is going to take, or the cost that the organization will receive for it by not implementing it, right? You have to do that business, what we call a business case. You know, where you have to say, okay, here's the business case of it's going to cost this much, but we're going to get our return on investment, you know, at this particular time period. And after you know, a year, we're going to have this much profitability. Or if we don't implement it, and let's say we get popped for a regulation or something. Now we got to pay $5 million. All you had to do is pay $1 million, right? But I think that, so from an operations perspective, the way in which I've done this in the past is that we make incremental changes within a department, mm-hmm. and people are going to realize those changes. They're going to say, "Hey, who did that? We did it. We did this with no money. All we needed is resources and time. We got buy-in within the department. We rolled it out, and then if you have documentation as to how much this is saving that department, then you amplify it and say, okay, at a company level, look how much it can save, right?" Mm-hmm. So, Ali, in your case, you were talking about like documentation, or is it more like process related?
It's everything, really. I work for the Walt Disney Company, so we're a huge company, and we're a tiny department at the theme parks, and we're trying to implement different processes and changes, and we even see it in the software we use. Like our incident management system, no one wants to use it. They don't understand how to use it. Mm-hmm. So I go out there and I show them how to use it, and it's like, oh, but I can just write it down and you can do it for me. And it's just like it's just they've done it for 50 years this way and they don't want to implement the change. And I see it across our processes, documentation, especially now for COVID. I live in a COVID world 24/7 now, and getting people to wear a face covering is the most difficult thing I have dealt with. So, mm-hmm. And everyone has a different opinion, and the unions are involved, and it's in the state of California. I mean, we have to run differently compared to our other parks, like in Florida and that sort of thing. So we're just getting pushed back on all ends. So I was just curious if you had any tips or tricks, because this is completely different.
The technology piece will be a little bit different, because you're going to be dropping about $1 million. For like Disney, you're talking like 10 million. What do you think, Kevin? How much would Salesforce cost for Disney?
No idea. depends on the use case. They have a million different, I'm sure, but
Right. But
it's a drop in the bucket. Makes sense.
yeah. So the technology from a technology perspective, I think that you're gonna get more acceptance from a process perspective. So, like I said, improving a process is going to cost you nothing. It's going to cost you time for you and your peers. And once you demonstrate the savings, once you eliminate those bottlenecks, other people are going to realize it. People are going to start recognizing it. And then they'll start getting rolled out to other departments. And that's kind of what starts that process. That's what I do time and time again within an organization. It's like those small little itty bitty low hanging fruit, continuous improvements, little incremental small improvements, right? And once you implement them, then try to promote them. Try to work with other departments and implement the same thing within their departments. And so the processes are simple, cost you nothing, only buy-in from your peers, right?
Right.
Documentation, standardization, simple, cost you nothing, time.
Right.
Once they're standardized, now you're able to document how many errors you had before this change, and now that we standardized it, now let's measure it again. You see that we had a 30% reduction in errors in 2 weeks for something that took me 3 days to implement.
Right.
And now that you're catching all these improvements, people are watching, right?
Right.
And now you're making impact, and now this is getting rolled out. Now you have to go to Walt Disneyland. Now you have to go to Walt Disney World. Now you have to go through all these departments and train these people on the process that you implemented. Right? That's how these changes roll out to organizations. You have to, and it's small. It starts with those small incremental changes. And like I said, if you have one change in your department, like a 5-person department, that saves you an hour a day. Now, Disney is so massive. They have hundreds of departments. If I'm saving an hour a day across hundreds of departments, look at how much money that's saving.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
A small itty bitty change. That's that lean thinking. That's why lean is so popular. It's those small incremental changes where once we expand it, once we scale it up, I'm saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a day on one little thing that took me 3 hours of change. That's why I'm calling the hospitals all the time to make these little changes like this. It's minuscule, but once you scale it, it saves companies millions of dollars.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That answer your question?
It does. I'm just trying to apply it back to what we do and how I can kind of do it. I think, like you said, the younger generations and what we've been talking about, I love efficiency and I see so much inefficiency there. Mm-hmm. So I like to create new processes and do it that way, or make improvements to current processes. And I think it's just difficult to make the changes. And so for my team, it's fine. But when I have to go domestic to Florida and that sort of thing, that's where it gets kind of complicated. But I just kind of wanted your opinion. So thanks.
All you got to do, I would say, and this is one thing that you'll always hear from me, just do it. Just do it. Because whenever you just do it, you can talk about all this stuff all day. And this goes for anything in your goals. It goes for anything in life. Because, like, for example, I share a lot of personal. I mean, because that's just who I am, right? And you know, whenever my peers were saying, "Oh man, I wish I could do a TED talk. I wish I could do a TED," that's always been my goal. I was like, shit. I just started applying. I did 5 of them last year, and I explain to people, I say, just do it. The worst thing that can happen is somebody says no. Okay, big deal. What I lose? Nothing, right? So in your case, Eileen, you know, if you implement this small incremental change, you know what's going to save your department time. It's gonna save you 30 minutes a day. That's 2.5 hours you can spend with your children, for example. That's 2.5 hours a week you can spend with your family. If it doesn't recognize it, you're spending time with your family. That's the way I sell it.
Yeah.
Right? And if somebody gives me pushback on why I'm leaving early, I'm getting the same amount of work done. I'm out. Right? So and so now, so with the beauty with continuous improvement, and we're going to talk about this, the Six Sigma DMAIC approach, because the DMAIC approach, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, is the approach as to what identifies these bottlenecks, right? So it is, so if you had a process, I could use a DMAIC approach to say, oh, so the perfect example that I use, and then you can drop if you need. This will be recorded. The perfect example that I use for some of my graduate students, because I deal with a lot of nurses, and when I talk about the DMAIC approach, I think about emergency room, right? And I say someone comes into an emergency room. First step is they check in with the receptionist. You know, they get triaged. They sit in the waiting room. You know, they go in the back and wait for an hour for the doctor. Doctor comes in, diagnoses the patient, leaves. Patient leaves, right? So when I look at that whole process, I look at all those steps, right? I use the DMAIC approach, and I say I define what the problem is. And when I define the problem, I say, okay, I think the problem is that my patients are waiting an hour for the doctor to come in, right? That's my bottleneck, hypothetically. So now that I've defined that, now I need to measure it. Now I need to validate that those patients are indeed waiting an hour for the doctor to come in. So I measure 10 patients, boom, 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 boom. Oh, they're actually waiting an hour, 10 minutes. We have a problem. Right, and that's the so I'm analyzing that data in which I measure, right? And now it's actually an hour and 10 minutes. Now I look at ways to improve that. Now I interview doctors, I interview patients, I interview nurses, and they say, okay, we can bring in additional doctors, or I can use Salesforce to have like a knowledge base of symptoms. And now the nurse may be able to, you know, begin the process. She doesn't diagnose, but she begins the process of a list of things that the doctor could look at based on the knowledge base that's sold in Salesforce or Epic. Epic's used a lot within the hospitals. But so that's the improve phase. And now that we've implemented those processes, we control it. So we continue to monitor those and say, okay, we got down to an hour. Let's get down to 50 minutes, 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. Right, and that is essentially that DMAIC approach that we're going to talk about, and that's one thing that you can do, Eileen. You know, you can say, okay, we think this is the problem within our organization, but we use the DMAIC approach to improve a process, improve efficiencies, reduce those errors, things like that. That makes sense?
Yes.
That makes sense to everybody? That's a terrible example.
Yeah, makes sense.
Nurses love it. All right. Anything else? Any other input? No. All right. We're gonna blow through this real quick. I mean, it's 6 minutes after, so I'm not gonna spend too much time on this. So this week we're going to go through forecasting and process layouts and things like that. Actually, although although the discussion is more focused on crowdsourcing, I want to get your input on this discussion because I really don't like it, but the other people did. Like the other class did, so that's why it's there. I don't like it. I want to get your input on it. So okay, look at this article, the crowdsourcing article. Look at the questions. Like I said, on next week's discussion, I want to get your input on whether you thought that discussion was valuable or not. I was outvoted by the students last term, so I'm trying to get people on my side. So.
Well, the assignment doesn't really, it generates some discussion, but 2/3 of the assignment are just reiterating what's said in the article.
Right.
But I think though last week we did a good job of extrapolating what we wanted to talk about and focused on that. So
right. Yeah,
so
the technology week's a good week. It's very applicable in that's where we're going in the industry. That's where we're going. Kevin, do you see that a lot? I wanted to ask you to see how much you see it.
Yeah, I mean, I live that every single day. I mean, my entire job is figuring out how to solve business problems with technology. So
yeah, but I'm saying, like, have you seen things such as like AI? How much have you seen AI come through? People actually implement AI.
Yeah, so in my discussion last week, I actually made a comment about a machine learning solution that we implemented at a higher education institution for my previous employer like a year ago. I mean, it's definitely, and it's still relatively new, like especially in the education space. I work a lot in public sector and education, so they're a little slower to implement these newer technologies than the private sector. So, but yeah, I mean, it's still finding its way there, and yeah, that's absolutely coming.
yeah, I liked last week's discussion a lot because there were just different facets to it. And I don't know, this week's discussion, I think will depend on what people write, but are you not a fan of the topic?
I'm not a fan. We'll talk about it next week.
Is that code for yes?
We'll talk about it next week. I mean, crowdsourcing is applicable, but I mean, like I said, the students last class liked it, so I left it alone. I just want to get what your input is on it.
Well, maybe
it doesn't have anything to do with process design and demand forecasting, first of all. Second of all, it happens in the industry, but I don't think that it's as important where you'll be able to apply it. There's more important topics to discuss that's applicable to your roles than crowdsourcing.
Yeah, that seems like such an offshoot.
Yeah, but again, like I said, I mean, I'm always open. Like I said, I have my opinions. I'm always open. Like I said, the last class liked it. I want to get what your input is. All right. But yeah, also, so although, you know what, I'll just because I do have some lectures, some recorded lectures on forecasting. I do have some recorded lectures on product and process design that I'll upload, you know, to provide some additional insight on that. I just don't know where I'm gonna put it. But so to give you a high level, you know, and that product and process design also goes into what we talked about with that DMAIC approach, you know, where we're always wanting to improve a process design. We want to identify wasteful activities. We want to identify wasteful steps, you know, and the DMAIC approach is one thing to actually do that. Within the product design perspective, we're always looking at lean to, you know, every step within providing a product or service needs to provide value to the customer, right? So that's another thing that we're going to talk about. And then demand forecasting. So, you know, that whole machine learning piece is very important with demand forecasting. artificial intelligence is actually, I mean, it's taken over the industry from a manufacturing and distribution perspective. In that, you know, it's early on, as Kevin said. I mean, within the ERP industry, I think it's not even a year old yet. I don't think, because I work with QAD, and they just released their solution when they demoed it for one of my prospects. So, I mean, we're very early on within that, but I think that's the future, you know, within the industry. So, I mean, I don't really have anything in terms of like lectures on that, but and also with the discussion. As a matter of fact, has anyone already responded to this discussion yet? Let's see here.
Only me.
Well, I wrote mine, but I haven't submitted it.
All right.
But we can't see. Like I can't.
Oh, well, he can see. I'm the only one that's responded, I think.
So I was gonna say I was gonna change it if nobody responded. So, but you already did. So I'm not gonna. I'm not sorry, Kevin. You gotta start over. No, I'm like
No, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I kind of had the same feedback that Lisa had. Honestly, it's not super. I don't know. It doesn't promote a lot of discussion the way that the questions are prompted, in my opinion. And like you said, the whole. Yeah, I know we're going to talk about it next week, so I don't want to go down that road, but
okay.
But I agree.
But could you add a second option?
What, another question?
Yeah.
Like, couldn't you add like a second option for those who haven't replied to it and give them the option to either read one article or another?
You want additional work? What?
No, one or the other. I mean, I wouldn't mind.
Okay. I'll do that. I'll add another question.
We did that in our leadership class. There was a standard, the author of the course made one discussion and the professor would often said, oh, you can do option B. Yeah. Well, so did our statistics class. I think he did that too.
All right, I'll do that. I'll add another question.
I already wrote mine too, so.
You want extra work? It's completely optional.
Well, no, not extra, but.
All right, so yeah, I'll add an additional question in terms of forecasting. Like I said, I mean, yeah. Okay.
But it's interesting to hear your thoughts. It'll be interesting to hear more on next week about your objections to it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to get your feedback. That's all. So, any other questions? So we only went an hour and 15. We only went an hour and 15 minutes tonight. That might be the shortest I've ever ran.
I do have one question about the simulation that we did for this module. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess not so much a question, but a comment. So I just found myself as I was going through it that I felt like, the time pressure, I guess, to kind of make decisions super fast. And my end result, I don't mind sharing, I ended up being under budget for the first quarter, but didn't deliver my product in time. And then for the next 3 consecutive quarters, I was over budget, but the product was delivered on time. So I ended up getting an okay grade on the simulation, but I was just kind of wondering, as we go through these real life scenarios, and we obviously have a little bit more time and more flexibility when we work with vendors to kind of come up with options and backup plans. But I guess I just kind of struggled a little bit with this one, I feel, with the simulation, just because I personally felt pressured. And for me, it takes a little bit of time to kind of process before I can make a decision that's going to impact, significantly. So I was just wondering, I know that we have another simulation coming up for next week, what advice you would give us for this week's simulation?
Well, if you feel that you're pressured, like I said, that's not real world. And if you feel pressured, I'll change the time on it. So, I mean, I'll change the time on it.
I don't think that like the deadline is not what I was.
No, I'm talking about the time. You said you felt pressure when you were actually taking it.
Yeah, because
Well,
I think
the
it ran
calendar
through the
counts
week.
down.
It went through the weeks really, really fast.
Did you stop it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
stopped it a couple times. Yeah, yeah. And I also didn't start it until I read through everything, all of the kind of questions it had you answer. So I kind of pre-formulated an answer before I started the simulation. So I kind of had a plan before I started. But then the execution part of it just didn't go so well.
Okay. But
Yeah, it's stressful.
It was, yeah, it was stressful. And then I didn't realize that you could do, what is it you could do 2 attempts on this? Was there 2 attempts that you can do? Or is it just, can you go back and try it again?
there should
Because
be
that was
multiple attempts. There should be multiple attempts.
You can do it twice.
twice. Okay.
The
Yeah,
highest-
my intention was just to go back and try it again, just to see if I could do better. And just for my personal sanity, but
Well, yeah, if you do better, you get a higher score. You have 2 attempts.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, my first score was horrible. And
How
yeah,
did you find-
a third time would have made it really made me feel like I had a really strong grasp on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did well the second time, but yeah, the first time I didn't even realize what was happening. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know why the calendar. I'm like, how do I stop this calendar? And then I had like an aha moment. Able to plan.
I think I really like the simulations though. Just my
I
personal.
know you said it was fun. Like that's so positive.
I love.
I really liked it too.
That's another thing that I wanted to ensure. Are these simulations helpful? So yeah, I want that input as well. I want that input for all this.
I felt a little like it was a video game of which I am not adept at all. So I, once I figured out how to figure what was going on, then I had a plan like Yvette did, kind of. I pre-planned. Mm-hmm. But I have to say the first time I just did not know why it was telling me that it was March 30th, and then July 2nd, which is my own fault, or maybe, I don't know if other people have done simulations. Is this something that exists in the classroom now that didn't exist?
I think a lot of classes have these simulations because
I think this is like, yeah, but I think because I haven't been in school for a long time, maybe it was new to me, which is fine. Gotcha. That's my own learning curve to overcome.
Gotcha. But yeah, like I said, let me know how you all feel at the
Is the Harvard similar to the MyLab?
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask that question.
Harvard, actually yes, because
you're still
I hesitated because Harvard has like 5 different versions.
But you got rid of one you said that was horrible.
Yeah, but there's different flavors of the Harvard one. That one. So the students last class liked the Harvard one
better than the MyLab.
The MyLab, they like MyLab better than Harvard. I'm just gonna tell you, but it's not bad. I'm just saying that if you had to pick the 2, they like the MyLab better than Harvard.
Oh.
So I guess she says it's like I didn't even like the MyLab, so I'm gonna hate the Harvard. But I mean, I'm being real.
Well, no, that's good, so we know what we're doing.
Yeah. It's not horrible. It's just I think the MyLab user interface is better.
I mean, I thought it was sort of cute and fun, just like the fake emails that I was going to get fired, on my first attempt, and then
Harvard didn't have anything like that.
Oh, and then I thought it was.
It's straight to the point. It's like take this, here's your score.
Oh, okay, I kind of like that. Andrew or whoever was like, "Good job." I don't know, that part was fun, and then I thought it was realistic when the bids prices kind of went all over the place, and just like trying to decide whether it was worth it to pay more upfront.
Yeah.
And those I think are applicable to real life.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the one where I kept getting, because I guess what ended up hindering my score was the fact that I was so worried about finding a vendor that was going to produce the product and have me deliver it on time. So that's what kind of caused me to go over budget, is I would cancel one order because they told me they were going to have a 3-week delay, or whatever the situation was. They were going to start production for one reason or the other. So I had to go and get a bid for a new vendor. And every time that you go do that, it either gives you a free quote or you have to pay for it. And because now you're late, now you have to rush the order. So I think that's kind of what happened.
Welcome
for me.
Welcome to supply chain management. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
that's the decisions that supply chain managers have to make, like, every day.
Yeah, so in that regard, it was valuable. But I understand what Yvette is saying. It's just the clock ticking rapidly while trying to like get your bearings. But I assume that's probably realistic too, though.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, imagine trying to find toilet tissue. Imagine if you're like a distributor, like a Walmart, for example, right? See, imagine if you're Walmart and you're trying to find toilet tissue, and a predicament you're in, trying to find suppliers and get quotes and things like that. You know, that's the reality of what people are dealing with.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah. Well, now I know what to expect. Maybe Yvette will do better. Like it won't be as stressful.
Yeah. Well, it helps to do the second attempt. But like I said, I'm gonna go back just to go ahead and try it again, and hopefully, with now the understanding of going through it one time, it'll be a little bit more seamless. But I personally thought it was something different, other than solving like a math problem or something like that. I personally like going through the experience of it.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. So
Good. I'm glad to hear that one.
Yeah, no, it's a fun class. It's good, and it's definitely applicable. And everything I'm reading, I feel like I want to just make flashcards. And when I talk to people who are reticent to change, I want to just throw out these concepts that are have been shown to be effective. You know, but that's a whole different story. Different topic. But anyway, I think I have to leave too. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, like I said, as we go through the week, if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. Oh, actually, I'm sorry, Justin. I did have one question. I sent you an email, and I think there was a problem in chapter 3 on the MyLab videos. I think it was 3.3 was a problem solved that there's supposed to be a video for it in MyLab, and it doesn't have it listed. So I was wondering if there was a glitch or if I need to find it somewhere else, but I noticed that
it's got to be a glitch.
It skips from 3.2 to 3.4. So when I was looking at the videos last night, I was opening at 3.4, but then I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't match. And so I sent you an email at some point yesterday when I was reading through that chapter. So I kind of did not, I'm going to go back to that chapter because the concept is kind of really challenging to go follow through with it in the textbook. The videos are really helpful. So I just wanted to let you know that, and I was wondering if anybody else had encountered that as they were reading through that chapter.
So you said 3.2?
3.3.
Danny, you're always this quiet?
No, I'm listening and taking it all in. I relate a lot with what you're saying and what I'm doing through the whole discussion and reaching the students and all of this. And we do have a logistics and supply chain course certification. And I'm still fairly new, but I am a huge advocate for tech with women and diversity. And I had done that even before this whole thing that had happened. So I'm pretty silently proud of the impact that I've made on my own by being an advocate and being so passionate about it.
Right.
And I'm finding that this logistics, and I'm always looking for strategies and ways for the students to do something different than the traditional business, because it's always like what they know. You know, I'm going to take business courses, and it's like, well, let's look into these opportunities that a lot of people don't know about, and they're very lucrative, and you could have a great career. So this kind of just sparked me to reach out to our logistics coordinator and start researching that more, because I'm one person and I take care of all of 32 of our programs, like CTE, all of them. But I really latch on to the ones that that are not so known and are very lucrative for, again, the females, the diversity and all of that. So this is really got me thinking. So maybe that's why I'm so quiet. I'm like trying to figure out.
Yeah, but I mean, and if you need any kind of assistance, let me know. Because this is what I do. I mean, this is my push.
No, I think there's a lot of great partnership opportunities. I just want to kind of see how many women are in the class, talk to the professor and see how I can partner. So I think that's why I'm so quiet, because I'm trying to like think about it right now to see, because I really infiltrated our cybersecurity program. And the professor and I work together really closely. I work with a lot of the students. And right now there was women in there, and I just latched onto them. And they all have internships, really good internships right now, and they're beating the boys. So I thought that was fun. But yeah, no, I'm a huge advocate. I'm very passionate about all of that. Even prior to this, just trying to find strategy. And a lot of times it's cultural, you just do what you know and what's out there, and the students don't know how to strategize, and they don't know how to think out of the box yet. So, and waiting for them to figure it out, to me, it's like, that's what I'm here for, is maybe to help them so they don't take so long or make so many mistakes or do things they're not happy with, because,
Right.
So
Yvette, show me,
Yeah.
let me see here. I'm going to show you, let me see here. I made you the host. Can you show your screen?
Yeah, let me just log into the dashboard. Okay, it just said that it couldn't open my lab, so I'm gonna try a new browser. Strange. Okay, let me go back to Zoom, and so I don't see the option to share screen. I think you need to make me host so that I can share. I think. No, I can't hear you now. Now you're on mute.
I thought I did. Hold on.
I can try again. shared screen with video.
Yeah, it says you're a host now. I made you the host, now I can't even take it back.
Oh gosh. Okay, let me stop my video and see if that works. Start video. Hide non-video participants. Hide self-view.
All right,
No,
reclaim
that's
host. There we go. So I took it back.
host now. Okay.
All right, took it back.
Oh, hold on. Oh, it says you disabled participant sharing.
All right, now try it.
Okay. Oh gosh. It says host disabled participant sharing. Oh wait,
Now
now
try it.
there we go. Okay, share. All right. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. So I'll go to assignments and I'll go to, oh no, that's not, it's not under assignments, is it? Chapter 3, 4. No, this is the homework. I'm trying to get to the videos. Menu. This is the homework. How do I get to the videos?
Oh, scroll down where it says M2 Media or whatever.
I just have now M2 chapters 3, 4, 8, and then M2 forecasting. So what happened to my video or my media?
Go into, let's see here.
Study plan, maybe?
You're in an assignment. Hit assignments.
Assignments.
Scroll down.
Yeah.
Scroll down.
Oh, there it is. M2 media. So, okay, so this is where I had, there's solve problems 3-1, 3-2. There should be a 3-3, and then it just goes to 3-4.
All right, I'm looking. Yeah, skip the 3-3. I don't even know. I don't know. I really don't know where it's at. I don't have to find it. I don't have to see what the deal is with that.
Okay. Cool. Well, no worries. I think the 3-3 and 3-4 are pretty similar, so I'm just gonna go back to that section and reread it and try to follow it. But
Okay.
yeah, just thought I'd let you know.
All right. Yes, there's a
In
problem.
case anybody else is going through it and is also wondering what happened to.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope. Thank you for everything.
All right. Thanks. Have a great night.
You too. Have a good night. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.